The living world. How wonderful is the living world? The wide range of living types is amazing. The extraordinary habitat in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountains, deciduous forests, oceans, fresh water, lakes, deserts, or hot springs, leave, leave us speechless. The beauty of galloping hordes of migrating birds, the valley of flower, or the attacking sharks evokes awe and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among the member of population and among the population of a community or even the molecular traffic inside a cell make us deeply reflect on what indeed is life. This question has two implicit questions within it. The first is a technical one and seeks answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living, and the second is the philosophical one and seeks answer to what the purpose of life is. As scientists, we shall not attempt answering the second question. We will try to reflect on what is living. What is living? When we try to define living, we conventionally look for distinctive characteristics exhibited by living organism. Growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment, mount a suitable response come to our mind. Immediately as unique feature of living organisms, one can add a few more features like metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact, and emergence to this list. Let us try to understand each of these. All living organisms grow. Increase in mass and increase in number of individuals are twin characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism. Growth by cell division in plant. This growth by cell division occurs continuously throughout their lifespan. In animals, this growth is seen only up to a certain age. However, cell division occurs in certain tissues, certain tissues to replace lost cells. Unicellular organisms grow by cell division. One can easily observe this in vitro cultures by simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. In majority of higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive events. One must remember that increase in body mass is considered as growth. Non-living objects also grow if we take care in body mass as a criteria for growth. Mountains, boulders, and sand molds do grow. However, this kind of growth exhibited by non-living object is by accumulation of material on the surface. In living organism, growth is from inside. Growth therefore cannot be taken as defining property of living organism. Conditions under which it can be observed in all living organisms have to be explained, and then we understand that it is a characteristic of living system. A dead organism does not grow. Reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organism. In multicellular organism, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. Invariably and empirically, we refer to sexual reproduction. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. Fungi multiply and spread easily due to the millions of asexual spores they produce. In lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we observe budding in planaria flatworms. We observe true regeneration. A fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of its body and become a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba unicellular algae or amoeba reproduction is synonymous with growth. Increase in number of cells. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence, we notice that in single-celled organisms, we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce, mules, sterile, worker bees, infertile human couples, etc. Hence, reproductions also cannot be an inexclusive defining characteristic of living organism. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. Another characteristics of life is metabolism. All living organisms are made of chemicals. These chemicals, small and big, belonging to various classes, sizes, function, etc., are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. These conversions are chemical reactions or metabolic reactions. These are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms, be they are unicellular or multicellular. All plants and animals, fungi and microbes exhibit metabolism. The sum total of all chemical reactions occurring in our body is metabolism. No non-living object exhibits metabolism. Metabolic reactions can be demonstrated outside the body in cell-free system. and isolated metabolic reactions outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living nor non-living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining feature of all living organisms, without exception, isolated metabolic reactions in vitro are not living things, but surely living reactions. Hence, cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of all of life forms. Perhaps the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organisms is the ability to sense their surrounding or environment and respond to this environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical, or biological. We sense our environment through our sense organs. Plants respond to external factors like water, temperature, other organism, pollutants, etc. All organisms from the prokaryotes to the most complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to environmental cues. Photoperiod affects reproduction in seasonal breeders. Both plants and animals, all organisms handle chemical entering their bodies. All organisms therefore are aware of their surrounding. Human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, has self-consciousness. Consciousness therefore becomes the defining property of living organism. When it comes to human beings, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patients lying in coma in hospitals virtually supported by machines which replace heart and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self consciousness. Are such patients who never come back to normal life, living or non living. In higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to underlying interactions. Properties of tissues are not present in the constituent of cell but arise as a result of interactions among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituent of the organelle but arise as a result of interaction among the molecular components comprising the organelle. These interactions result in emergent properties at a higher level of organization. This phenomena is true in the hierarchy of organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, and self-regulating. Interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology is the story of life on Earth. Biology is the story of evolution of living organisms on Earth. All living organisms, present, past, and future, are linked to one another by the sharing of the common genetic material but to varying degrees. Now let's move towards diversity in the living world. If you look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, your pets, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observations in, the range and variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number of kind of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, or organism that you see represents a species number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity. Biodiversity or the number and types of organism present on earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names will vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you will recognize the confusion that will be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other. We refer to organisms we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is found by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when organism is described correctly and when we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is called identification. In order to facilitate the study, a number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria, which are provided in International Code of Botanical Nomenclature (ICBN). You may ask, How are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature (ICZN). The scientific name ensures that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not even been used for any other known organism. Biologists follow universally accepted principle to provide scientific name to known organism. Each name has two components: the generic name, and the specific epithet. The system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by Carlos Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. The naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the examples of mango to understand the way of providing scientific name better. The scientific name of mango is written as Magnifera indica. Let us see how it is binomial name. In this name, Magnifera represents the genus, while indica is the particular species or a species specific epithet. Other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. Biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. The first word is in a biological name represent the genus, while the second component denoted the specific epithet. Both the word in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. The first word denoting the genus start with a capital letter, while the specific epithet start with a small letter. It can be illustrated with the examples of Magnifera indica. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet at the end of the biological name and is written in an abbreviated form. Example: Magnifera indica Lin. It indicates that this species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs or dogs, cats or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats. Now, if we were thinking to Alsatians, we know that we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals with external ears and body hair. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our mind will be of wheat plant, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals, etc., are convenient categories we use to study organism. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. Here you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at very different level. Plants also form a taxa. Wheat is also a taxa. Similarly, animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa. But you know that dog is a mammal and mammal are animal. Therefore, animal, mammal, dogs represent taxa at different level. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structure along with the structure of cell development. Process and ecological information of organism are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature are the process that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kind of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the uses of various organisms. Humans being very human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kind of organisms and their diversities, but also the relationship among them. The branch of study was referred to as systematics. The word systematic is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publications. The scope of systematic was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationship between organisms. Now let's move towards taxonomic categories. Classification is not a single step process but involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Since the category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic category, and all categories together constitute the taxonomic hierarchy. Each category referred to as a unit of classification in fact represents a rank and is commonly termed as taxon. Taxonomic categories and hierarchies can be illustrated by an example. Insects represent a group of organisms sharing common features like three pair of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified and thus were given a rank or category. Can you name other such group of organisms? Remember, groups represent category. Category further denotes rank. Each rank or taxon in fact represents a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Taxonomical studies for all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdoms, phylum or division for plants. Class, order, family, genus, species. All organisms, including those in the plants and animal kingdoms, have species as the lowest category. Now, the questions you may ask is how to place an organism in various categories. The basic requirement is the knowledge of characters of an individual or group of organisms. These help in identifying similarities and dissimilarities among the individuals of the same kind of organism as well as of other kind of organisms. Now, let's move to the subtopic species. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. One should be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological differences. Let us consider Magnifera indica, Solanum tuberosum potato, Panthera leo lion. All three names indica, tuberosum and leo represent specific epithets, while the first word Magnifera, Solanum, Panthera are genera and represents another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithet representing different organisms but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet called tigris, and Solanum includes species like nigrum and melongena. Human beings belongs to the species Sapiens, which is grouped in genus Homo. The scientific name thus for human being is written as Homo sapiens. Genus comprises a group of related species which has more characters in common in comparison to species of other genera. Let's revise this line again. Genus comprises a group of related species which has more characters in common in comparison to species. मतलब जीनस में ज़्यादा कॉमन कैरेक्टर है स्पीशीज़ के कंपैरिजन में. हम ऐसा भी बोल सकते हैं कि जेनेरा रिलेटेड है स्पीशीज़ के साथ. मतलब एग्जांपल के तौर पर पोटैटो, ब्रिंजल अलग अलग स्पीशीज़ है पर उन दोनों का जीनस सेम है जो कि है सोलानम. लायन का है पैंथेरा लियो, लेपर्ड का है पी पैराडस एंड टाइगर का है पी टिग्रिस. ऐसे कॉमन फीचर्स ऑफ सब स्पीशीज़ ऑफ द जीनस पैंथेरा. This genus differs from another genus Felis which includes cats. The next category, अगली कैटेगरी है फैमिली. फैमिली वो होते हैं जो रिलेटेड जेनरा के होते हैं. वो लेस इन नंबर होते हैं, नंबर बहुत कम होता है उनका, और वो कैरेक्टराइज्ड होते हैं ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ वेजिटेटिव एंड रिप्रोडक्टिव फीचर्स ऑफ प्लांट स्पीशीज. Among plants, for example, three different genera Solanum, Petunia, Datura are placed in the family Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genus Panthera comprising lion, tiger, leopard is put along with genus Felis cats in the family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the feature of a cat and a dog, you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated into two different families, Felidae and Canidae respectively. Now next subtopic 1.3.4 order. You have seen earlier that categories like species, genus and families are based on number of similar characters. Generally, order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified based on aggregates of characters. Order being a higher category is the assemblage of families which exhibit few similar characters. The similar characters are less in number as compared to different genera, including in a family. Plant families are like Convolvulaceae. Sorry for the वर्ड के प्रोनाउंसिएशन में थोड़ी गलती हो गई, इसके लिए सॉरी, पर आप समझ लेना. Solanaceae are included in the order of Polyamines, mainly based on floral character. The animal order Carnivora includes families like Felidae and Candidae. Class. The category includes related orders. For example, order Primata comprising monkey, gorilla and gibbon is placed in class Mammalia along with order Carnivora that includes animals like tiger, cat, dog. Class Mammalia has other orders also. Phylum. Classes comprising animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds along with mammals constitute the next higher category called phylum. All this based on the common features like presence of notochord and dorsal hollow neutral system are included in phylum Chordata. In case of plants, classes with a few similar characters are assigned to a higher category called division. Let's see the order here on left side of this page. Species, genus, family, order, क्लास फाइलम किंगडम. ये ऑर्डर आपको याद होनी चाहिए, जैसे कि मैंने याद किए किंगडम फाइलम क्लास ऑर्डर फैमिली जीनस स्पीशीज. किंगडम फाइलम क्लास ऑर्डर फैमिली जीनस स्पीशीज. ठीक है, हम किंगडम की तरफ बढ़ते हैं. ऑल द एनिमल्स बिलोंगिंग टू वेरियस फाइला आर असाइन टू द हाईएस्ट कैटेगरी कॉल्ड किंगडम एनिमलिया इन द क्लासिफिकेशन सिस्टम. जैसे कि मैंने आपको बताया था किंगडम एनिमलिया आप पढ़ोगे आगे जाकर. इस चैप्टर के स्टार्टिंग में भी कुछ नाम आए थे, एग्जाम्पल्स आए थे जो उस चैप्टर से बिलोंग करते हैं, तो इससे डरने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है. आप उस चैप्टर में अच्छे से पढ़ोगे. जूलॉजी का चैप्टर है. ठीक है. द किंगडम प्लांटे ऑन द other hand is distinct and comprises all plants from various divisions. Henceforth, we will refer to these two groups as animals and plant kingdoms. The taxonomic categories from species to kingdom have been shown in ascending order, starting with species in figure 1.1. These are broad categories. However, taxonomists have also developed subcategories in the hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement in various taxa. Look at the hierarchy in figure 1.1, जो कि हमने already देख चुके हैं. Can you recall the basic of arrangement? Say for example, as we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characters goes on decreasing. Lower the taxa, more the characteristic and that the members within the taxon share. Higher category, greater is the difficulty of determining the relationship to other taxa at the same level. Hence, the problems of classification becomes more complex. Table 1.1 indicates the taxonomic categories to which common organisms like housefly, man, mango, wheat belong. आप ये चार्ट दे सकते हैं. ये चार्ट को याद करना बहुत सही रहेगा, तो आप याद कर लेना. Taxonomical aids. Taxonomic studies of various species of plants, animal and other organisms are useful in agriculture, forestry, industry and in general in knowing our bioresources and their diversity. These studies would require correct classification and identification of organisms. Identification of organisms requires intensive laboratory and field studies. The collection of actual specimens of plants and animal species is essential and is the prime source of taxonomic studies. These are also fundamental to studies and essential for training in systematics. It is used for classification of an organism, and the information gathered is also stored along with the specimens. In some cases, the specimen is preserved for future studies. Biologists have established certain procedures and techniques to store and preserve the information as well as specimens. Some of these are explained to help you understand the usage of these aids. Herbarium is a storehouse of collected plant specimens that are dried, pressed and preserved on sheets. Further, these sheets are arranged. Herbarium आपको ये डायग्राम भी याद कर लेना है. According to university accepted system of classification, these specimens along with their description on herbarium sheets become a storehouse of repository for future use. Figure 1.1 for future use. Figure 1.2 में हम आगे देख लेंगे, आगे पीछे देख चुके हैं. The herbarium sheet also carry Label providing information about date and place of collection, English, local and botanical names, family, collector names, etc. Herbaria also serve as quick referral systems in taxonomic studies. 1.4.2 Botanical Garden. These specialized gardens have collection of living plants for reference. Plant species in these gardens are grown for identification purpose, and each plant is labeled indicating its botanical scientific name and its family. The famous botanical garden are at Kew, England, Indian Botanical Garden, Howrah, India, and at लखनऊ ये बॉटनिकल रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट लखनऊ। ये आपको याद रखना है, इस पर काफ़ी बार नीट में क्वेश्चन आया है और ये काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चंस में से एक है इस चैप्टर के बिलोंग में। ये चैप्टर कोई ज़्यादा वेटेज तो नहीं रखता, इसके क्वेश्चन भी सिंपल है, खाली आपको याद रखना है, ठीक है। म्यूजियम, बायोलॉजिकल म्यूजियम आर जनरली सेट अप इन एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूट सच एज स्कूल्स एंड कॉलेजेस। म्यूजियम्स है कलेक्शन ऑफ प्रिजर्व प्लांट्स एंड एनिमल स्पेसिमेंस for study and reference. Specimens are preserved in the container or jars in preservative solutions. Plants and animal specimens may also be preserved as dry specimens. Insects are preserved in insect boxes after collecting, killing, and pinning. Large animals like birds and mammals are usually stuffed and preserved. Museums often have collection of skeletons of animals too. Zoological parks. These are places where wild animals are kept in protected environment under human care, which enable us to learn about their food habits and behavior. All animals in a zoo are provided, as far as possible, the conditions similar to their natural habitats. Children love visiting these parks, commonly called zoos. 1.3 जैसे अगर hippopotamus और ये कोई अलग ही key is another taxonomical aid used for identification of plants and animals based on similarities and dissimilarities. The keys are based on the contrasting characters, generally in a pair called couplet. It represents the choice made between two opposite options. This results in acceptance of only one and rejection of the other. Each statement in the key is called a lead. Separate taxonomic keys are required for each taxonomical category, such as family, genus, species, for identification purpose. Keys are generally analytical in nature. Flora, manuals, monograph, and catalog are some other means of recording description. They also help in correct identification. Flora contains the actual account of habitat and distribution of plant of a given area. This provides the index of the plant species found in a particular area. Manuals are useful in providing information for identification of names of species around in an area. Monographs contain information on any one taxon. तो इसी तरह विद इन 30 मिनट्स हमने ये चैप्टर फुल रीड कर लिया है। एक हिसाब से आप रिवाइज बोल सकते हो। अब ऐसा मत समझो कि ये सिर्फ बोले जा रहा है इंग्लिश में, बस आप समझ लेना और मेरे साथ फ्लो में रहो रीड करने के।